Hey everybody, welcome to TV Recap. I'm Lance and this is the recap for Westworld Season 1, Episode 7 titled Trompe l'Oeil. Now, I've got nothing for a clever intro this week, so let's just get right into it. Okay, no other way to start this video than to talk about Bernard. Now, the reveal that Bernard was a host is one of the best executed reveals that I can remember seeing on TV, even though I predicted he was a host all the way back in Episode 1. Actually leaning more towards a theory that Bernard is a host that has somehow advanced to human level. Now, the writers did such a good job of executing this surprise that I was even starting to doubt my theory until this week. They started dropping hints with Bernard's dream about his son, since we only have seen the host's dream, and the wrecking ball of the door not appearing until Teresa mentioned it. Seriously, go back and rewatch the episode. The door isn't even on the wall until Teresa draws ours and Bernard's attention to it. Now, the resulting scene balanced between the intrigue of realizing the truth of what's going on and the horror of realizing that Ford was seemingly replaying Teresa's previous conversation with the head of the board, Charlotte. Now, the end result was horrible to watch, and I think that's because it was quiet, not the cliched screaming you get in other shows and movies. Now, the final shot of Teresa's body behind the host building machine not only hints that a host version of Teresa might be back next week, but also at the same time makes us question how many people Ford's already replaced with the hosts. Now, shifting slightly from the Bernard reveal, I wanted to talk a little bit about the corporate takeover storyline. Now, it is made abundantly clear this week that the board is trying to force Ford out, and he is having none of it. Now, the stage host failure scene with Clementine came off as so visceral, which I think is the point. And besides being the catalyst for Bernard getting fired, I think the sequence also provides a clear motivation for Maeve to want to escape. Now, speaking of Maeve, there are two scenes that really stood out for her this week. First, the scene when Clementine is collected was insanely tense, given that Maeve's new superintelligence keeps her from being frozen by the collection team. Now, the shot cuts between the technicians and the knife in her hand told a very frantic story for being so still, and I loved it. Now, second, Maeve's speech about the suicide mission of escaping gave me chills. Her line about being great at death might be what gets Thandie Newton an Emmy. Now, finally, let's talk about William and Dolores. Now, while the nitroglycerin decoy and horseback scene was shot well, the part of their story this episode really came to life on the train, and I think we got two big steps forward for these characters. Dolores has now developed enough to create new images in her art, and William finally realized what type of escape he can find inside the park. Now, while Dolores was really just marking down a subconscious image, I think it's the fact that she now feels capable of generating completely original thoughts, which is inspiring and terrifying all at the same time. Now, as for William, I think he's just one final nudge away from fully devoting to Dolores and trying to help her escape. And I think having two different versions of a host escaping storyline at the same time will provide a really interesting contrast, but we'll have to see how that plays out next week. Now, before I go, last week I asked you all to spread the word about Westworld, and today I read that HBO has renewed Westworld for a second season. Now, I'm not saying that I deserve all of the credit, I'm just happy that the story will continue. And based on the published numbers, it looks like Westworld is doing just as well as Game of Thrones did in its first season, and we all know how well that's working out for HBO. Okay, how did you guys feel about this week's episode of Westworld? Do William and Dolores actually have a happy ending that they can get to? Is Robo Teresa going to make an appearance next week? And who the hell grabbed Elsie last week? Leave your comments down below, tweet me at TV Recap, and click on the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss next week's video. Okay, that's all for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week for more Westworld. Bye.